Hey guys, what's up? So I one of the things that I've really noticed in my current context in Elwood, like regarding our recent readings is I actually made a discussion post about it for this past workshop. Um but in chapter 3 of the American Grace, it talks about like some patterns shown within the past century, where the America is slowly getting less and less religious, and it has a couple like spikes in the graph um that the author refers to as what the major well, I have it right here. I can't remember what they called it exactly. But like a major shift, a major shock. That's what it was, a major shock. And there was one that happened when when the baby boomers reached adolescence, and there was one that happened when the millennials reached adolescence. And I, I've experienced that in my church, with both of those people groups like tending to become more secularized, just with but I've experienced that just through the dynamics and demographics of my church. For example, we have like a lot of people that are, I don't know what all the generation names are, but that are in between like what the boomers um and the millennials would be, so like 40s and 50s and 60s. But we don't have a ton of boomers in the church, and the millennials are also, there's not a ton of millennials in our church either. And when I'm talking to these people, I've wondered uh why that is a little bit. And when I've talked to specifically the millennials, they talked about how they grew up in um really strict religious houses, and that kind of led them away from Christianity and religion, and decided to go become more secular and thought and lifestyle and all that. And I thought that was interesting because that kind of lined up with what they were saying on page 80, where they talked about how the baby boomers, whenever they kind of became more secular, it led to two other counter reactions. Like one was some people becoming um more conservative and more traditional because they were like, oh, this is so bad, we need to be the opposite. And then that counter reaction caused another one within the millennials to be like, oh well, our parents really hounded us about these things, maybe like purity culture, for example. And so then they got turned off by religion again. And so I've seen a lot of that in my church within the people that are like in their 30s and late 20s, even a little bit. And so that's a way I've experienced it. But at the same time, chapter 6 of American Grace kind of comes back with a little bit of hope and starts talking about the future of American religion and some of um, new new like good patterns that are going on within like millennials and within people our age. And it kind of talks about how it's actually starting to go up again. And I think it's interesting because I've seen that. Like I said, I was talking to people that are millennials about these sort of things, and but I'm talking to people that are back in church, so they left because of the reasons that I explained, but then they came back because they started to recognize there was an absence of truth in their life, and they wanted to start to recognize that. And so my kind of the connection that I want to make with all this stuff is simply I want to learn, as I'm in ministry, as I'm a pastor, how I can reach the people that are searching for truth in that way. There are so many people out there that have been written off as, just non-religious, not Christian, secular, whatever word you want to say. But the reality is those people are still searching for truth, right? And they didn't experience the love, or they didn't find what they were looking for within the churches because of some racism or hatred or inequalities or whatever it may be. But at the same time, they're still looking for what like Christianity and what it means to be a follower of Christ truly does is meant to provide, I should say. They're looking for love. They're looking for like not acceptance in the way of I want you to allow me to sin, but acceptance in the way of like, in spite of your sin, I'm going to love you. Like people are looking for that desperately. And so I just want when I'm going throughout ministry, I want to keep all these trends in mind because it helps me learn, helps us learn how people think. It gives us a general backdrop to like what happened in their time periods that caused them to turn away or come back or whatever it may be. But at the same time, it also allows us to recognize the church has some places that we need to grow in. So let's be that change. Let's be that growth. Yeah. So that's kind of my experience, and I would just love like to know like if you guys have found to have like experiences like that in conversations with people, or even like what are some practical ways that we can address this situation, like how can we get this truth out to people in a way that is loving, because that's what they need, that's what people want. So yeah, what are your thoughts?